Those bubbles right there are what make this dough completely different, because this dough uses a pre-ferment called a POOLISH, and it might take your pizza dough to the next level.
It's criminal. Today we're making a pizza dough using a POOLISH pre-ferment. I've made dough with a Biga pre-ferment before, but POOLISH behaves differently. Let's test it out. POOLISH is basically a really wet pre-ferment. You mix flour, water, and a little bit of yeast together ahead of time, let it ferment, and then mix that into the final dough. And if you want to try this recipe out for yourself, get ready to screenshot. 3, 2, 1. Here's the full formula. One of the trickiest parts of a POOLISH is measuring really small amounts of yeast. A scale that reads down to tenths of a gram, like the ooni dual platform digital scales, make that a whole lot easier. For this dough, we're doing a 1-to-1 ratio of flour and water in the POOLISH. So that mixture is going to end up extremely loose, almost like a pancake batter. Once the POOLISH is mixed, we just cover it up and let time do all the work. This will ferment for about 12 to 16 hours at room temp. When it's ready, it should look just like this, bubbly, active, and with just the right amount of jiggle. Now the part I'm really curious about, how this POOLISH behaves in the mixer. Because the POOLISH is 100% hydrated, it's gonna pour just like batter. Those stretchy strands are a great sign that it fermented properly, and that means we're off to a good start. We'll add a little more yeast, our remaining water, and start mixing. This is where we really start developing that gluten. With the mixer on low, we'll slowly add the rest of the flour until everything starts to incorporate. As the dough starts to form a shaggy mass, we add the diastatic malt powder. We should see it begin to come together, but we want to wait till it's clearing the side of the bowl before we add our salt. Then we'll let this mix for a few minutes before adding our olive oil. Once the oil is fully incorporated, we'll remove our dough from the mixer and head over to the bench. This dough is roughly 67% hydration, which should give us a really nice, soft, open crumb. But we're going to add a little bit of strength with a few sets of stretch and folds. We can already feel it tightening up as that gluten develops. When the dough lifts cleanly off your work surface and has a nice taut skin, you're ready to roll. If you're unsure, feel free to check your gluten development with the window pane test. Yeah, that's exactly what we're looking for. Once we pass the window pane test, we divide the dough, shape it into balls, and set it up for an overnight proof in the fridge. That extra time is going to develop even more crazy flavor. All right, it's the next day and it's time to bake. Let's see how this dough actually performs. These two 800-gram dough balls are looking great, which means that later we're making a monster 20-inch pie. But first, let's start with something a little more reasonable, just for testing purposes. Right away, I could feel how soft and easy to work with this dough was. I'm definitely not the world's best pizza stretcher, but this dough opened up without resistance. I didn't run into any thin spots or tears, and it held its structure really nicely. We're gonna top this one on our bamboo peel, keeping it classic with some crushed tomato sauce, freshly shredded mozzarella, and cupping pepperonis. Give it one final shape, shake, and oops, didn't pass the shake test. Add a little more semola flour, and now we're launching. Let's see how it bakes. Right away, we can see our crust starting to rise. That's a great indicator that our fermentation was spot on. The dough's holding onto air right where it needs to. Just a quick check to make sure it's even, and we're ready to pull. It sounds almost as great as it looks. We'll finish this one off with Parmesan, basil, and a hot honey drizzle. Wow, the crumb looks fantastic, light, airy, and super tender. That is the POOLISH at work right there. That's that pre-ferment. That's delicious. But I want to push this dough a little further, because those 800-gram dough balls mean we can go much bigger. The dough is still stretching surprisingly well, even at this giant size. This is where good gluten development really matters. A weaker dough would start tearing right here. But we were able to get this one all the way to 20 inches. I wanted to go wild here, so we're topping with a ginger soy aioli, mozzarella, and karage, Japanese fried chicken. The weight of all these chicken bits should really stress test our gluten. Thankfully, the dough held up great, so after a quick reshape, it's time for the shake test, and we're ready for launch. Right away, we're getting some really strong oven spring. This is where a weaker dough would start to collapse. But when we pull it to turn, you can see just how much air this dough is actually holding onto. I mean, come on, that crust is just a thing of beauty.
Can't even fit it in the frame.
We'll finish this one off with a little Fresno lime crema, some green onion, and get ready to dig in.
Double fried chicken karage pizza with a Polish dough.
Trust me when I tell you, this dough is insane.
It's criminal. That's really good. Fermentation getting pushed into the crust. That's gorgeous.
So, does the Polish actually make better pizza?
Yes. Yes, it did.
I'll say, I'm pretty convinced. This was one of the best pizzas I've had in a long time.
Polish hype is real.
Which one are you taking? The classic pepperoni or the 20-inch karage? If you tried this recipe at home, drop a comment and let me know if you think the Polish made a difference. Next up, I'm gonna pit this head-to-head versus a biga and a straight dough. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss it. Thanks for checking out Backyard Pizza Lab, and I'll see you on the next one.